Welcome to today's session. I am the Business Services and Quality Director at Vee Technologies. Today, Paul Fiore will share highlights from his new paper, A Century of Transformation. The paper details the successful transition of an aerospace facility into a PPE manufacturing plant during a critical time of need. These same transition skills enabled our Vee Technology team to keep the cloud fully functioning and secure during the largest work from home movement in history without skipping a beat. Paul's talk will focus on key business transitions that Vee Technologies has experienced, spanning a century of time. Paul is the Engineering Services Director at Vee Technologies. His passion for education and vocational training for the rural poor in both Borneo and India keep him very involved in Vee Technologies' CSR activities. Paul, we look forward to hearing about this exciting history.
Thanks, Audrey, and welcome everyone. Thanks for allowing me a window of time here to detail or put a few more details into a paper, a white paper of about 1,200 words. So a few pages. We can only give certain elements of the topic of the paper. Allow me to summarize that for you here. Vee Technologies, you would guess with a name like Vee Technologies, we do provide technological services, and I indeed am in the engineering and architectural division. And one of the ways we deliver services is through our cloud. And with COVID, the work from home scenario all over the world, it became essential that we kept our cloud services up and running, not only for the delivery of these technology-centric services, but also for the data security that our healthcare and architectural and engineering services require. So having said that, I believe the paper, not to timestamp things here, the paper's about 10 weeks old. Vee Technologies just celebrated its 10th anniversary here in the United States. The paper says a century of transformation, but I'm going to go back 1,000 years to where this all started with the Valiapa. V for Valiapa, I said Vee Technologies. Well, when I say Valiapa, it's the Valiapa ancestors. Let's not get into all the names over several hundred years, right? So aside from that, and again, Audrey, thanks for the introduction. I'm actually part of a team of, I would say, 300 to 400 people in the engineering team. The healthcare division's much bigger, but the CSR team is actually the largest in the company. We're about 5,000 total employees, and our CSR team is about 5,000 people. Everyone who works at Vee Technologies carries our mission statement forward every day when they come to work, to globalize prosperity and to make lives better. So let's start in southern India. You might know our headquarters is in Bangalore. Let's go all the way down to the tip of Kerala around the turn of the millennium. The Valiapa family were in agriculture and farming. A huge tsunami around that time forced them to do the first pivot and transformation, as we say in the paper, to make a move and head to drier land. They moved to a little bit further north in southern India to a region called Chettinadu. Now in Chettinadu, which is a couple hundred miles south of Bangalore, so we're still very south, they started setting up and trading on the spice route. So China had the Silk Road going east and west. India had the spice route, primarily going north and south. And what's key to understand, and what's key about the element of the paper, which the topic of is transitioning an aerospace facility into a textile factory to create PPE, personal protective equipment for COVID. Because if we acquired essential services status from the Department of Defense by providing this PPE, we could then keep our IT team on staff, keep them in the headquarters, keep the cloud up and running, and deliver those services. So I'll be drawing metaphors, comparisons, and just general alignment with our enormous history with Vee Technologies and the Sona Group to that transition. And Vee Technologies is having a transitional culture. So in supporting the spice route, Chaco Valiapa's family, Chaco's our CEO, his ancestors provided banking and financial security to the traders along the route. It's about a 1,500-mile route. No one wanted to take their money with them. And when they took their goods with them or were returning home with them, they wanted to feel safe and secure. And that's where the Valiapa family stepped in. Chettinadu, by the way, is about 27 villages that are known for the people having integrity, reliability, and responsibility. People trusted the Valyapas. They gave them their money rather to hold on to, which the Valyapas in turn then loaned to the Dutch East India Company. I'm not going to go down the deep details of all the banking, but let it be known that when they sold the banking interests centuries later, it was an enormous financial institution. It helped underpin the foundation of what became Singapore. So big changes. Kerala, India up to Chettinadu, and then Chettinadu up to Salem in the 1920s. And if you go online, you can see a picture of the Valyapa estate, a beautiful home, many visits from Mahatma Gandhi. It was Chaco's great-great-grandfather who met with Gandhi many times on how to transition this newfound wealth from the spice route and the farmers and agriculture and the growing textile industry into wealth for India. Well, the next transition that happened with Vee Technologies and our parent company, the Sona Group, when Mahatma Gandhi was making a trip down to the family estate to have another strategic meeting with Chaco's great-great-grandfather, he noticed none of the farmers were wearing shirts. When he arrived, he took his shirt off, threw it on the ground, and declared, "I'm never going to wear a shirt again," out of protest for poverty, for famine, and for colonialization. We need to be free. Politics gets you somewhere, but not all the way. So what was Chaco's great-great-grandfather going to do? Well, we started transitioning an agricultural and farming business into textiles. This was when the United States was in a depression in about 1929. We had the largest textile factory and machine in the entire world. So let's go forward even further as we've made another transition into textiles and everything that goes along with that. Business management, leadership, hiring, human resources, and so on. Prime Minister Nehru gifted his palace to Chaco's great-grandfather, and this was the foundation of what became Sona College. It's also called Sona University, and it's also called Sona Yukti, and there's even a community college around it. That's because there's a degree program, a diploma program, and Sona Yukti, which provides outreach to the rural villagers to provide them vocational training, but the same thing that India as a new nation needed for itself in its own transition. And that was a transition into self-sufficiency. So not only could you learn how to silver plate jewelry or make clothing or dry spices and sell them at the open market, but you now learned how to open a bank account, how to be literate, how to dress appropriately in business, entrepreneurial skills that offered someone to go out and not only have a job, but to create success and pass that on generationally, just like the Sona Group has been passed on to Chaco Valyapa. So now we're moving forward and you're starting to see the transformation of India as a country and the Sona Group as an institution that's rooted in our college. The Sona College is the hub of where everything comes together. And when you have a university offering master's, bachelor's, PhD programs, you have a research and development department creating new things, creating new patents. The evolution of that is that not only can these individuals anchor teams of what is now outsourcing as we get into the 70s and 80s in India, but it's a very healthy and wealthy group of intellectual offspring of our university that we can tap to hire the best people. So now you have this country that's yearning for the wealth that it lost during colonialization. Now the United States market is opened up. So back to the paper, right? There's your typical white paper. There's an abstract, an introduction, a summary, and some business challenges, right? In the case of opening a factory or converting an aerospace facility into a textile mill, it's change management, human resources, supply chain, materials testing, right? Creating objects like biosuits and masks and so on in a sterile environment. So incorporating some of these changes quickly and getting the attention of the Department of Defense to grant us this status, we had to have the right people in place. So Ramar Sunandran, actually a friend of Chaco's from the age of 5. They would walk to school together. I sat next to Ramar when our engineering came out. Every November, the USA team goes to India, and got to know him and talk with him and get educated about Chettinadu and the history of the family as well. And it's all about strategic relationships, yet another transformational, a requirement for successful transformations, I should say. So as we've had relationships through the leadership with Mahatma Gandhi and Prime Minister Nehru and the Department of Education and the Department of Defense now with Chaco and his aerospace team, when the bell rang for India to start creating its own personal protective equipment, we were able to answer the call. So you can notice in the paper, I've offered a few pictures in the actual white papers. When you go online, veetechnologies.com, you can click on white papers. You can also search the white paper title, A Century of Transformation, and it'll bring you there. And you'll notice pictures of 100 school children playing on an open playground or doing their morning calisthenics. That was an old textile factory. Vishala Valiappa, Chaco's wife, runs several of those schools now. I've been there. It's amazing to see. Middle schools with laboratories that were once textile mills and warehouses converted to schools for these kids to launch into high school and then college. And many, many other facilities that have made a transition. So the white paper itself, A Century of Transformation, now you can begin to see how we've transformed into agriculture, into textiles, and then education. We acquired Texas Instruments in 1985. You'll also see a picture of the microwave tower, the satellite tower still on top of our corporate headquarters in Bangalore. And that's what really launched us into technology and all of the companies that spring from a technology IT backbone. So there you have it. It's wonderful to go to work at Vee Technologies every day, knowing that I'm driving solutions forward, long-term solutions with technology and a support team behind me every step of the way, and that there's very little me, there's a whole lot of team, and that the team runs deep with technological services and all the excellence that goes around a big heart and a golden path, which is what Sona Yukti means in their native language. So Sona meaning wealth, but not in terms of gold, but wealth meaning we want to share that wealth. And Yukti meaning path. So we're not the rolling wheels of business. It's not about single transactions. We're the actual highway. We provide the fork in the road because we are the road. And that comes with having a heart in everything we do. Thanks for giving me a window to outline or draw some conclusions between some of the questions that arise in the white paper and Vee Technologies and the century of transformation in the history of the Sona Group. Cheers.
Paul, thank you for that great overview of your white paper. For our audience, we hope you enjoyed hearing about Paul's new white paper, A Century of Transformation. To learn more about this incredible history, please download the white paper from the Vee Technologies website.